Level 2.
Oh, hello. Didn't see you there. I bought this game from Vietnam. It's basically like whack-a-mole, but with puppet thing. So it's basically like this, and then there's mode. This is story mode. Basically, you level up every time you win 4 rounds, 5 rounds. It's a very good fidget toy. And no, I'm not embarrassed to play with this in public. And I have played with this in public. And if we take too long, we lose. And that's what happens. Speaking of games, this video, I want to talk about an escape room I did in Vietnam. It's the most terrifying escape room I've ever done in my life. And I want to talk about that, talk about fear, and other thoughts that I have that links to this. And I got a new hairdo when I was in Vietnam. This is like 2 days before I left. It's like I got my head curled for the first time. Wasn't sure whether it was gonna like suit me or not. Turns out it's very fitting and the hair doesn't go on my face. So, and I'm back in Melbourne, back in my room. First video I'm filming in my room for 2024. Jet lag is very real. It's 11:30 here at the moment, 11:30 p.m. in Melbourne, but it feels like 7:30 because Vietnam time is 4 hours behind Melbourne, and I was in Vietnam, so my brain and my body aren't like resynced with Melbourne time yet. So I keep thinking it's like 7:30. It feels like it's 7:30, not 11:30. I slept until 2 p.m. today, and today is like Sunday, 25th of February. Like, yeah, 1 day after I got back from Melbourne. On to the actual video. For those of you who don't know, I am an escape room enthusiast, and I'm also a horror enthusiast. So when I love escape rooms and I love horror games, and I love horror escape rooms in particular. And I've done many horror escape rooms in Melbourne, and I like them. I like them a lot. But I've never done one with live acting before. And I invited 2 of my cousins who've never done escape rooms before to a horror escape room. It's called The Basement. The premise of the story is that the players are essentially kidnapped by this serial killer guy. Like he's not mentally very well. Like he went like wild and he kidnaps people, and we are kidnappees, and our goal is to escape this psychopath's basement basically. And there was like options for this game where you can have NPCs, like real life actors playing as NPCs in the game, or just a regular escape room without any live actors in it. We chose the live actor version because we wanted to try it. I've never tried it before. I was very hyped. I was a little bit scared, but I was also very hyped. And in the first room, there were 4 rooms. We didn't complete the room, by the way. There were 4 rooms. Like there were 4 rooms in the actual basement game, and we only got to 2 of them. We didn't see the last 2 rooms. We didn't get past the second room because we missed a hint in the dark. That was like, my cousin figured out the answer basically, but they had to reverse the numbers, which we missed the hint for. It was in the corner of the room in the dark and we didn't see it. So we missed that reverse the numbers hint. Otherwise we would have got to the 3rd room. Anyway, yes, in the first room, we knew that there was going to be a live actor coming in at some point in the game, but we didn't know when. And we were like, every time we heard a noise or something, we kept thinking that the live actor was going to come barge in and start scaring us. The rule they told us was when the live actor comes, you turn and face the wall, you don't look at them, and you're silent. That was the rule. And whenever you hear like them barge in, you face the wall and you don't look at them and you stay silent. That was the rule. So we ever heard a noise, we thought they were barging in, or like they were coming in, and then we just like faced the wall. But there was a like sort of the live actor didn't actually come in. And there was a point where I think it was like 15, 20 minutes in the game, we're trying to solve the first few puzzles. And since the first few sounds were like a hoax and that they didn't actually come in, I was like, oh, they're not coming in yet. And then like a few minutes later, boom, they kicked in the door. They kicked in the door. Like there was noise that like, there was specific noise where you could tell that it was the live actor coming in and not just like noise from the speaker, like the ambient horror music that's playing in the background. This was like, we knew it was like coming from in real life on the other side of the door, and we knew that they were coming in, and we all ran to the wall, we faced the wall, and it was like bam, and then I didn't see what they looked like. They told us not to look. We weren't allowed to look, and we were not supposed to make any noise. We had to stare at the wall in silence. And this person comes in, bam, kicks the door in. It was really loud. And then there were like 2 barrels behind us as props. Was slamming on the barrels, like this psychopath in the context of the game. Slamming barrels. They didn't touch us, like the live actor didn't touch us because we specifically requested no contact. If there was contact, I would have like freaked out a lot more. No contact, so they were like slamming on barrels, kicking the wall, scraping what seems to be like a metal object against the wall around our heads. And it was making like sounds like my face when I did that was like sounds basically near our ears to freak us out. And then the left, and then like a little bit later, my cousin's like, it's all good, it's all back to normal. And then they heard that because there's cameras in the room watching us. And then they come barging right back in and scaring us again. And then and then after the second one, we're like, no, we quit the live acting, no more live scares. And then we do an X to the camera for 10 seconds. And then we did this for 10 seconds. And they basically canceled the live acting. Like it was just going to be a regular escape room from now on. We just solved the puzzles and trying to get out. There's no more live acting. There's no more real life jump scares. But I was wrong because when we finished the first one, we actually went downstairs to the basement. Like we went down like a flight of stairs into like a very sort of confined area to solve the next puzzles. And then just like 2 minutes after we went downstairs, we heard a noise. And I'm like, wait, is that from the speaker? And I'm like, fuck, that's not from the speaker. And then we hear the serial killer walking down the stairs like really loudly and doing again. And we're like, the fuck, we cancelled live acting. Why are they coming down here? And we all 3 of us ran into the closet and just like stared at the wall as the serial killer was like kicking down oxygen tanks as props and like once again doing and also just scraping metal against the wall, like gonna stab us. Again, there was no touching, so no contact with the actual player. It was just slamming objects and making noises to scare us. They didn't actually touch us. And then as the serial killer went back upstairs, and I'm like, happy birthday to me. That was actually part of the game. It's like the serial killer's birthday was actually a hint, and we needed to use that birthday to like solve the puzzle. But and then after that, we X'd again, and then we told the worker no more live acting. It was from that point that we actually just played the game, and there was no more live actors coming to scare us. If we had continued with the live actor in play, they said there would be a part of the game where if you get caught by the serial killer, that they were going to drag you into the dark room and the other players would have to rescue us. Like rescue the person who's been dragged into the dark room. And I was actually curious, what if I actually got dragged into the dark room? What would the dark room be like? In hindsight, I'm actually more curious than scared. In the moment, I was scared. And then after we told them not to do it and they did it again, I felt annoyed. And then after the game, I'm like, what happens if I actually got kidnapped into the dark room? And then I was thinking, it's like, what happens if I actually started making noises back at them, like I could, like hypothetically, what if I face the wall still, right? I don't look at them, but I do sounds back at them. Like I'll just like laugh at that idea in my head if I did it back to them, because they don't expect it. I don't know why they tell us to stay silent. It actually makes it more scary because it makes us feel helpless. It's like if we can fight, retaliate back, or like, scare them back, it's like we have power. But they tell us to face the wall in silence, and makes us feel helpless. It makes me feel like I'm playing Outlast. I played Outlast on PlayStation. I love the games. It makes me feel helpless in the game. That, like, I'm powerless, that they can scare me, and they have the power to barge in whenever they want. And I have no control over that, and I have no control of how I respond because they tell us specifically how to respond, which is face the wall and stay silent. Which also plays into the fear, that the feeling of helplessness in the dark room. You don't know when they're gonna come at me. Like we don't know when they're gonna, jump at us, and we just have to like sort of deal with it as it comes. The first reflective thought I had after I played this room with the live actor for the first time is that I did enjoy the horror. I enjoyed the thrill of being scared, and the anticipation of like, shit, like when are they coming in, like next? When are they coming back? But I've learned that after this trying this game one time, the escape room with live acting in it, where we are jump scared, it doesn't work for me, as in I don't enjoy the escape room aspect so much, because when I play escape rooms, I like focus. I like focusing on the puzzle. I don't like focusing with my nervous system feeling heightened and, trying to focus with the thought in the back of my head that this serial killer actor could be coming in at any second, and that my train of thought and my focus would be completely broken. And then I have to refocus my mind on the puzzle after they've left, knowing again that they could come in at any time. It doesn't work for me. For me, I've realized that I enjoy these two different elements independently. If I'm to play an escape room, I want to play the actual escape room without being freaked out. Just focusing on the puzzles, having my mind focus on that one thing, and going through with that throughout the whole game. Because the way my brain works is it takes me a little bit to sort of ease into focusing on something and then enter flow state. And then if I lose my focus when I'm intensely focused, I get really annoyed, and it just throws me off, and then I have to like refocus my mind and re-enter like the focus state. And if I get distracted again, then I have to like reset this cycle essentially. And that's what happens when the live actor keeps coming in, is that my focus keeps getting broken, and it doesn't work for me. I do like that horror element. So something that would work better for me would be like a horror house, or like an immersive horror experience where I don't have to be actively solving puzzles, and I can just purely enjoy the thrill of horror. Just like not worry about puzzles, not worry about like getting out of something, just purely the thrill of the horror, of being freaked, of, if it comes to that, being chased by a serial killer or something like that in the dark. I would love that. But independent of an escape room and independent of having to actually focus on something. Just because the way my brain works, the two together is not enjoyable. It became more enjoyable when we cancelled the live actor and just focused on the actual puzzle. But having the two together makes it less fun for me. For example, just linking to the little previous segment, is that I played Outlast. Outlast is a first-person horror game, and in the game, you're helpless. The only thing you have is a camera and running and hiding. You can only run or hide. Yeah, you basically run or hide, and the only way to see in pitch dark is through the night vision camera. And that is an extreme sense of hopelessness, because you can't fight the enemy, you can't combat the enemy, you can't somehow take down the enemy. You only can run or hide, which makes the player feel like a mouse being chased by a cat. Like helpless, cornered. you only can sneak your way around or avoid them or like run away and like hopefully you don't get caught. I love that. I love that aspect of horror. But I like that experience because I like playing that because I don't really have to solve puzzles. It's just navigating through the game, trying not to die, and trying to understand the story and piecing everything together, like what's actually trying to understand the storyline. It's not so much actively solving puzzles like an escape room. And I love that. Yeah, I love that game because it has that, I just like run on an adrenaline sometimes. At some parts of the game, I run on adrenaline. Something doesn't happen for a while and I come around a corner and it's just like a jump scare or something. I love that. And I love it more because it's not tied to me actively solving puzzles and having to shift my focus. The other sort of post-reflective thought I had is I felt more scared in that room because of the rule that was sort of placed on us to not do anything. It's that sense of helplessness that in sort of fuels the fear because we know that we're the ones under threat. We know that we don't have the advantage, as in the live actor playing the serial killer has control of when they barge in. They have control of how they scare us. They have control over that whole element. And the players aren't supposed to react. We're not supposed to do anything. And we're not supposed to look at them too. We're not like, it's like they can see me, but I can't see them. They can scare me, but I can't scare them. It's just that element of helplessness. The predetermined role to look at the wall and not do anything and stay silent. Just a side note, there was other people playing a different game in that same escape room center. There were 4 different games. I was playing the basement, someone else was playing a different game, and I heard the whole group of players in the other room screaming so loudly. I think they were being chased by someone. They were all screaming. They were screaming so loud I could hear it from my room. And it was like understandably so. I think their game was quite scary too. I think all of the games at this place were horror. I don't know what their theme was, but they were screaming and I think they were running as well. So yeah. Yeah, the helplessness. And it just makes me reflect that in other contexts of life, like outside of escape room games, outside of horror escape rooms, that fear is good sometimes, but it's how I use the fear that is like determines how overwhelming it gets for me. It's like I can use fear as fuel. I can use fear as fuel for action. In the context of the escape room, I wasn't allowed to use it because they told me to do nothing. That was part of the rule of the game. As alongside, don't abuse the worker, which makes a lot of sense. Like you don't want to attack the worker, like punch them, like that's understandable. But the staying silent part sort of threw me off a little bit. When I first saw it, I'm like, fear is good because I guess it helps us survive. It helps us survive. But it's like our rationality of fear also plays into how much fear we actually experience. For example, if I was in that like escape room, no, actually I won't use the escape room example anymore. I'll use a different example. Good example is my social anxiety back then. Like I used to have really bad social anxiety and my fear was like constantly off the charts. And I lived in a chronic state of stress and nervous system heightenedness, basically. And I was constantly in fear of a lot of like social things, like fear of what I didn't do, fear of what I did, fear of the way I'm living now. It's like if I did something and afterwards my brain will just run with it and be like, why didn't you do this? You should have done this. You look like an idiot, blah, 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 blah. And then it just makes me even more scared of future interactions. And if I didn't do something, my brain would go down that same train of thought. Why didn't you do this? Now people think you're rude, etc., 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 etc. And that fueled fear. My thought process towards it fueled the fear. It fueled the fear. But right now, like in my present version of life where I'm not plagued by social anxiety, I'm not saying I don't feel nervous around new people, but I don't experience social anxiety anymore, and my mind doesn't run a million miles an hour with every social interaction I have and beat myself to death with self-depreciating thoughts about what I should and should have done, and nitpick at my own brain, nitpicking at myself about things that people probably don't even notice. Or if they do, then I care way too much about it. I don't do that anymore. I don't nitpick myself anymore. But that's an example. My thoughts fuel the fear. But if my thoughts are like, yes, this is scary. For example, if I have, actually a good example is, actually, well, I don't know how I feel about that actually. For example, if I was to like go to a horror house tomorrow, or I was about to give the example of like if I was in Outlast, but then I'll probably die because the character dies in the game if they get caught. So not a good example. Say, for example, if I go to a horror house somewhere, like a haunted house, like complete darkness, live actors everywhere, I could be just spooked at any time, right? If I feel the fear, and then I start thinking about the 10 million different ways I could get spooked, or possibly chased, or this. If I walk down a dark corridor and think that someone's gonna jump at me from every corner, and I keep thinking that and reinforcing that, then I'm gonna feel even more scared before it happens. I'm gonna make myself feel additional fear before the actual fear-inducing thing happens in reality. Whereas if I do feel fear, and of course, if I go to a horror house, I'm going to feel scared. Even though I love it, I'm going to feel scared. But if I don't overthink this and overthink things and just be like, okay, I'm gonna get spooked. If I get spooked, I get spooked, and not ruminate about the possibility of being jumped. And if I don't think about being jumped at every corner, then I'm gonna feel more in control of my fear. That yes, this jump scare could happen, but don't dwell on the thought, because it doesn't actually change whether or not it will happen. Because if it happens, it will happen. Dwelling on it doesn't change whether or not it happens. Dwelling on it only increases my level of fear, if that makes sense. It's like we already feel level of fear, but the way we sort of think about it in our heads can either control the level of fear or increase the level of fear before the actual fear-inducing thing happens. Also, sometimes fear is a good indicator to do something, because fear leads to growth. Fear often leads to growth because we feel fear. At least, I think we feel fear because we're uncomfortable with something. We're unfamiliar with something. We don't know the outcome of something. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how we're going to respond to it. We don't know the future, essentially, of what's going to happen. And I think that can lead to a lot of fear, because we can't pre-control the outcomes of a certain situation or something that may or may not happen. We try to control something before it happens, and I think if we don't have control, then we feel more fear. How about, for example, if I know, for example, if I talk to someone new and I know that we're gonna vibe, and that this person is gonna, not judge me for being autistic or talking in a certain way or info dumping, etc., then I'm gonna feel less fear. But if I approach someone new and I talk to them, I don't know how they're gonna react to me. I don't know whether they're gonna judge me. I don't know whether they're gonna discriminate. I don't know how they're gonna treat me. And that can lead to more fear, because I don't know the outcome before I enact something. And I'm starting to like sort of not like learn that and not live in like I'm gonna make videos about autistic unmasking. I started unmasking a lot more and being a lot more myself and stimming more and doing whatever I need without with less fear of being looked down upon. And even if I'm looked down upon, I'm just like, okay, cool. And like I'm just trying to like have that mentality of like being okay with being disliked. And that's a fear I think I held subconsciously for a very long time because I am a horrendous people pleaser. I think it ties into autistic masking as well, being people pleaser or masking and sort of lying about our needs to fit in with the world, to be accepted. It's a whole thing. I think I'll make a future video about that. But yeah, now I'm just I'm masking a lot more. Like I've been unmasking a lot more the past 2 months, and just being like, okay, if being okay with being disliked, and that it's not a reflection of me. It's just okay if this person doesn't like me because I don't know. I don't know why they don't like me, but that's not my problem to worry about. Or this person might not like me for who I am, my identity, etc. They'll be like, okay, you don't like me for who I am. It's not my job to like please you. It's not my job to live my life to fulfill your standards and expectations of who I should be in your mind. I'm just living my own life. If you don't like me, you don't have to be part of my circle. You can, you exist and do your own thing, but don't be part of my circle. Don't be part of my realm. You live in your realm, I live in my realm. We don't have to be in each other's realms. And then that's how I see it now. It's like people are so diverse. Not everyone's gonna like me. And I'm okay with that. Because I think the most important person I need to fulfill the need for and sort of not ignore my gut feeling of is me and my own needs and not masking and stuff like that. So, and also like reframing the mindset that, okay, if this person doesn't like me, if I'm not liked, I'm talking about fear of like rejection and not being liked too. If people don't like me, I still like me. So it doesn't bother me. But usually in the past, I've built my self-esteem and sort of how much I like myself based on how other people see me and how much other people like me. And that's something I'm not doing anymore. It's like the foundation of my own self-esteem is my own self-beliefs and how I see myself and how I treat myself, not how other people see me and how other people might treat me. If someone treats me badly, it's not a reflection of my worth, it's a reflection of the person. That's how I think of it. How we treat other people can mirror or be an indicator of a lot of internal things that need addressing within ourselves. So that's why I'm much more okay with people not liking me now than I used to in the past. I love how I started this video talking about escape rooms and then I started talking about people not liking me. It all links in a very in the same bubble, but my brain works in tangential ways where I talk about one thing and then I remember a different topic that links to it and I link that in together. My brain works like a giant spider web. That's how it works. Everything links together somehow. If something links, I pull it from the other connecting web and I just connect everything together. I think I want to wrap up this video by saying fear inherently is not a bad thing. Learn how to control your fear and you realize how much power it has. You realize how much power it has in like leveraging fear instead of letting fear overpower us. Thank you for watching, folks. I hope you enjoyed the video and I will see you in the next one.